Hello and welcome to Horticulture. Today's video is a guide to planting trees. Now before we go on into much detail, I've brought you in here to show you that I can plant trees and it does work. These birch, I planted those. I planted these manna ash here. I can't remember how many years ago, but you know, you can see how big they are. They were just little root balls when I got them. And in here there are countless trees that I've planted over the years. And you know, I haven't just planted in this little bit of wood. This is just an example. And there's some more at the top here. Now you'll see this one being planted in a minute. All these around here, the dogwoods, the willows. I did that as well. That cork oak. And these are all, yeah, if you can see them in this light and in the winter. And the beauty there of those alders. Well, there'll be two reasons why. Either you've been given a tree, or you've got a tree, or you want a tree of a certain type. And the other is you have a place that you want to put a tree. So the first thing to do is look around your neighbourhood and see what grows. I'm using that as an example because here, what we have here as a reason why is there's a bank there, and that wanted to be covered up because it's just basically nettles and brambles. So we have a battle stopping it coming in here. So that's our challenge, as it were. But if you have a look over there at the top, through there, can you see that green at the top there? Well, that's the laurel. And I saw that get planted and I thought, oh, that grew really quickly. So obviously they grow here. And I know they grow thick, so I figured let's put them in here. Now one of the problems in this particular area is honey fungus. And that is why these have only just started to get going, and they've been in for 5 years or so. Whereas this cornus mass, I know that could grow easily 4 meters, because I know one that's grown that tall, and that has just started to get going this year. But the other thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to plant some willows along here. Willows being native British trees. I'm going to put one at the end, one about there, and one at that end. And if I can get a nice curvy line, then that's what I'm going to do. Now when choosing a tree, you need to take into account your surroundings, what grows around you and what will grow around you, and whatever tree you think of getting, research what height it's going to get, because very often people buy a tree, go, oh, that's lovely, put it in a space, put it too close to a wall or too close to a fence, or just completely put it in the wrong spot, and they forget that a tree that's, you know, that tall when they buy it can grow into something, you know, 15 foot tall and 3 or 4 meters wide. So do your research on the exact tree that you're going to get. Now there are 3 types of tree. One is bareroot, one is pot grown, and one is one that you're moving. And they need pretty much similar methods. The bareroot being the one that's slightly different. It's perfectly explanatory. Bareroot is obviously a bare root. Pot grown will be in a pot, or it will come wrapped in a protective, wrapped in fabric of some kind. Bareroot trees need planting pretty much straight away or healing in, and before planting you need to soak the roots in water, And it's always a good idea, whatever tree you're planting, to actually soak the roots before you start planting. And this method applies to trees in pots as well as trees that are being moved. So first of all, you mark your spot. Also, you need to decide whether you're going to do a square hole or a round hole. Now I've planted both, and I have found no discernible difference between them. I mean, the theory is that if you've got a corner, then the root will go into the corner and force its way through, rather than in a round hole go round. But if you make a big enough hole and you break up the bottom and you break up the sides a bit, I don't think that's going to be a problem. What I usually do is do a hole 18 inches wide diameter and 18 inches deep. That seems to be enough. Obviously if your root ball's bigger, you'll need to do a bigger hole, you know. You have to just do it that way. The other thing you can encounter is stone or clay. As you can see, there's a bit of a root in there. Just difficult to dig. That's one of the things. So you need to get yourself some tools: spade, trowel, mattock, breaking bar, gloves. Sometimes I take a rake, just makes filling back in easier. And go to your spot. So you dig your hole, add some leaf mould, compost, bloodfish and bone, and backfill is what I do, because very often we prepare a hole well in advance. And then when you get your tree, you can then see the size of the root ball and offer up your tree. Make sure that where it comes out of the root ball is level with the ground or slightly below. And what we tend to do is we put a stick, a cane, across the hole, and then you can see where the level of the ground is. On sloping ground like this, it's slightly harder to do that, because you'll find that the top of the root ball is going to be slightly lower than the bottom, so you have to sort of do some wiggling. I think that's the technical term. And then backfill, tread it down. Now when you firm down, start from furthest away from the plant and move in, and that way you make sure it's very firmly down. So let's discuss staking. Ideally, you either need to pre-dig a part of the hole or have a helper to help you keep the post straight. Now I have to admit that if there's a few things that I can't do, one of them is to put a stake in that is straight. I just can't do it. I have tried and tried and tried, and I end up with wonky stakes. The only time I've ever put straight stakes in is when I've got someone helping me, because I've managed to get it from most directions straight, and then I think, yeah, that's straight, and then I walk away and I look at it from a direction I haven't looked at it in, and it's slightly leaning. So that is the only thing, and you need to put the stake in the direction of the prevailing wind, or the predominant prevailing wind, because you don't want the tree to lean, because then it'll lean with the stake. You want the stake to be what holds the tree steady. It's always a good idea in the first sort of year to just go around and check that the ground is still solid after a planting. Just firm it down again, because it gets rock in the wind. You can't be, you need to be sure, because without compacting the soil, it's quite hard to get to get anything solid, especially when the wind's rocking a new tree until it's taken root. So that's something to bear in mind. So there's a nice little shot with some clear rabbit guards on them. I think I might get some actual proper tree guards and put them in the spring. But to stop the deer munching, temporarily they'll work. But I think I'll get some taller, 4-foot ones, because the deer just munch the hell out of everything around here. Then add a mulch and water it well, or water it well then add a mulch. And interestingly, here's something that's only been done in places I'm working at this year, and that's a watering tube that goes right down to the roots, which is a brilliant idea. If you get trouble from animals, or even if you don't, it's always good to put a tree guard round, a spiral guard for rabbits, or a bigger one for anything else, because very often you plant new trees, and animals come along in the night and scoff away. In doing so, they deform the tree that you've spent your time and energy and money planting. So here's our spot marked, and we're going to fill it with a cercis or Judas tree. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clear a space around so that I can dig a hole. Space clear, quoth the raven. So there's the hole. Now what I've done is I've gone down a spit and I'm keeping the topsoil separate. But what you'll find is you'll have stuff in dependent on your ground. Here we'll have limestone when I go a bit further. So I'm going to have to go and get the breaking bar. This is how we plant everything here. All the shrubs and trees anyway. But also in there are a lot of roots, as you can see, because they've obviously come from that stump there and that stump there. No shortage of stumps. Oh, and that stump there. Now I've used a rake in order to scrape that out because it's a lot easier. And if you want a guide, this is going to be about 2 feet across, literally. Now I've dug down another, well, I say dug, I've used the bar. I didn't use dug, but I've broken up a lot of limestone that I'm going to have to take out, and I'm hoping to get to that root, but I hope you have easier soil than this. But if you look at all these, many of these trees were planted like that, and often we would take a barrow load of limestone out. So I'm going to go and get some gloves and the barrow. So there it is now, and here's how much stone I got out, and that is only going down 2 spits, probably not even 2 spits, but I've just done enough to loosen the bottom. So I'm going to now go and lose those stones somewhere in the hedgerow and get some leaf mould. Now here's our leaf mould, and I'm known to be generous, so I shall be getting 6, 12, probably about 20 shovel loads. And here's some in the making, some to be used next, and some more in the making. Yeah, we have a lot here, not to mention that down there. There's the barrow with half a barrow full. So I've mixed a layer in and I've firmed it down. It's one of the things, it doesn't matter if you fill it all in and firm it down, because and then have to take it out to plant it, because it gets more mixing. Another layer in that I will end up putting more leaf mould on. And basically leaf mould and firming as you go. You can see I've left it above the ground because I've still got to chop it up. I'm going to mix it about a bit more and then firm it down. As you can see, the barrow is empty. I am known for my generosity of feeding where it comes to plants. So the secret of growing good trees is good hole preparation. So it is mixed in and filled up and backfilled. So to see a tree actually being planted, we'll have to look at this willow that I planted by the dew pond that I showed you earlier. I know I go on about it, but mattocks are brilliant. So if you're a gardener and you haven't got one, why not? Any other way of getting soil out of a hole quickly, because there gets a point where you're going to go down so far with a spade before you're hardly picking up anything, and then you get it caught against the rock and the load you've got on the spade falls off. So this is actually a lot quicker. But here's this hole. As you see, I need to get that depth. Okay, well I think that hole's deep enough now. Yep. Indeed. Now I'm going to try and get it to stand up more vertically if I can. It's deeper than it needs to be, which is good. So now I break the sides in. And firm it down as you go, and then luckily I've got the rake, because we can rake it down into the depths of the plant and the hole. Now you can see how much stone has come out of there. Now when you firm down, you firm from the outside, furthest away from the plant, into the centre, because that will keep it more solid. So that's that planted. So yeah, you have the clip there, then through the spacer, round the tree, back through the spacer, and round the other side, through the clip, and tie it. Through the clip is easier said than done sometimes, and then you pull it tight, because it's so difficult to put a stake in straight with one person. We usually have two people do it, and it is difficult to put it in straight. Because I mean, you're supposed to put however long the stake is, it goes into the ground a third of its length. So if you've got a 6 foot stake, 2 foot will be in the ground, so it'll be 4 foot high. But very often, you know, at a certain depth, possibly 12 to 18 inches, you hit rock or very hard soil, and all you've got to do is hit a stone and it will do that. So what we do is we actually put a nail in to stop the tie moving. It's quite unfortunate, and also sometimes the roots are so spread out all around the tree that there is a likelihood you can damage roots putting a stake in. You just got to do what you can do. Spade in, slot, tree in, and dig your heeling away from the tree and just close up the slot. Slot planting done. There's a bee around the camera, look at that, wow. But that's how simple slot planting is. And they do say that if you do plant trees, you'll get 15% loss. So, but slot planting is great. It works better than you think. If you've got plants that like a certain condition, if you create the area around them to be that condition, then they've got a high chance of survival. So basically what we did is that whole circle within this outer wire, we dug down to a depth of probably 16, 18 inches actually, maybe further, took the soil away and then put loads of ericaceous compost in with a bit of soil. The Vidia involucrata, or handkerchief tree, complete with stake, tie, spiral guard, rabbit netting and irrigation tubes going right down to the roots, and a round base over a square hole. Aside from the beech in the middle, I've planted the other 36 trees in this field. You can see these Acer Crimson King, it's a semicircle, and a Robinia. There's also liquid amber, small leaf lime, various malus and prunus, tulip tree, pink horse chestnut, and others. But here's an example of kind of a neglected area in that not much notice is taken of it, but these laurels that you see here, I planted all these, they were stumps. There you go, you can see one there. That's how big the stumps were, 1.5 foot. See where the laburnum is in the middle of the shot? Well, all along that 100 metres of where that fence is, and well, about 2 thick, and up to the corner here where you can see it's all marked out differently. This was all laurels, all of it, massive ones. They were higher than the fence, let's put it that way, and they all got grubbed out, apart from a few which were grubbed out and moved to here to fill in this gap. It's sort of to, as you can tell, as you can hear, the road is quite noisy, so they've been planted to block the road out. Well, I've tried to cover as much as I can and show you as much of the issues that you would come across as I can. So I hope that helps. I didn't do stakes for the reason that I'm rubbish at doing them. So you have to get advice from someone else, just like I'll probably have to, unless I can spend the rest of my life avoiding putting a stake in. So thanks for watching, and see you next time. Ta-da.